What we're about to show you doesn't have anything to do with anything that you are going to eat, but unless you were a nudist farmer, you will very much appreciate what happens here. Chris Adams, you are a sheep shearer.
Yes, sir. This is a focus of a project that I started about a year or so ago, the Wiregrass Ecological and Cultural Project. Focus of that is understanding the people of this region 150 plus years ago. My ancestors, my family's been here for 10 generations.
10 generations.
Yes, sir, a little over 200 years.
We know how hard rural life and especially agricultural life is now. It was much more difficult then. We couldn't go to the store and buy, I mean, maybe if you had a lot of money, you could and go buy this shirt. But for the most part, people had to be completely self-sufficient. And a lot of the way that they did that was clothing that came from wool. Where our wool comes from is from your friends who are in this barn.
Yes, sir. These are Gulf Coast sheep that we'll be shearing here in a little while, a heritage breed that are native or somewhat native to this region. They're descendants of sheep that were brought by the Spanish, the French, and the English. And as a lot of the old timers said, they thrived on neglect. They were only rounded up once a year simply for their wool.
Just got a haircut.
Yeah, just got a haircut. They weren't really raised for meat either.
Doesn't hurt the sheep, doesn't hurt you.
Once he's shorn, that's when he gets put back out and thrown back into the pen, later on released into the woods for another year.
And these shears.
Got my wet rock, keep my shears sharp.
All right.
But the shears
so that's a whetstone.
Made of one piece of steel like this. And the tension is put on it by moving your hand back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
But those shears are made by the same company that's been making them since the 1740s in England.
Good gracious. And then the final step of the process is what's in this basket. Now, how much wool off of that one sheep would you be able to make a glove or a suit?
You could probably make a set of gloves, mittens, or a knit cap out of 1 or 2 fleece, but you'd be going through hundreds of sheep after shearing. To help you understand, these sheep were not owned in 10s and 20s by many people. They were owned in the hundreds. At one point, 5 million sheep in 1860 roamed across Georgia, and I'd say probably a third of them were in the southern region.
I'm getting here at a good time when the hardest work is already done. You've got the back end. That's really the more problematic end, I think. Will a sheep bite you?
I've never been bitten by a sheep.
So that doesn't hurt. That probably feels good, like when you get your hair cut?
Yeah, and it's just the pressure here with my arm is just to let her know that she does need to stay still.
Right.
Like Chris said, it's a lot like a little kid.
This is the first of many more steps before it turns into something you're going to wear.
Yes.
I would have thought just getting the wool off was enough. What's the importance of trying to get it off in a single coat, in a single piece?
Well, what you're doing is trying to get the longest fibers possible, and that makes it much easier to spin.
How many times a year would you shear a sheep?
Most times it was every year. In South Georgia specifically, it was every May.
Every May.
Between the planting and the heat of summer.
Because they appreciated this haircut come July in Georgia.
After the shearing was over, and of course all the wool was gathered, cleaned, carded, dyed, it would take thousands of hours, hundreds if not thousands of hours to produce one garment. That could be a single dress, that could be a sack coat, that could be the breeches like I've got on, which are made of a mix of wool and cotton, known as jeans cloth. But you're talking thousands of hours.
Did you ever think you would shear a sheep?
In my dreams. I grew up reading Little House on the Prairie.
Oh, so this was kind of, you had the whole Laura Ingalls Wilder thing. So this was almost a fantasy for you. I can't wait to wrap my arms around a dirty sheep and help shear it.
Yes, very much so. And I got to plow with the mules earlier today, and I mean, I came back over here, I was on cloud 9.
All right, they're gonna be another minute more with this. We're still working on side 1. They're gonna flip this record album in a minute and do the other side. We're gonna move on. We're gonna come back and take a look. 150 years ago, this is not a sight you would have seen here, but I think, as we all know, as soon as tractors became available, they were an important part of farming. You always see at a great festival like this, a great tractor parade. Now, Unfortunately, they wouldn't let me drive any of them, so I think I'm just gonna follow along. Right this way, ma'am. Right this way. Keep the traffic coming. Keep it moving, everybody. Here we go.